Welcome to our ongoing YouTube video series on restaurant law. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and I am a restaurant lawyer. And in this particular YouTube video, we are going to be discussing a new phenomenon that a lot of people are curious about, but there is no clear direction oftentimes as to how one goes about it. And that is a concept of home food industry services, or otherwise known as using a kitchen either in a home establishment or a commercial industrial space to service as a restaurant without necessarily being a restaurant. So you're looking to have a home kitchen and be a chef that is licensed to operate and serve people. Now, what has brought about this transformation? Well, a couple things have brought about this transformation, and one of the key ones is the delivery services, whether it's Uber Eats, Dash and Dine, and a whole range of other app-based food services that are delivering food from restaurants to homes. That makes this process a lot more convenient and possible. The other aspect that we have out there is the fact that the restaurant industry and starting up a restaurant has become increasingly expensive and cost prohibitive, such that everybody wants to get paid, but at the end of the day, the last person to get paid is the restaurant owner. And even with established franchises, the amount of money that's going out of the door often leaves very little in the way of money available to the person who's owning the place, which is oftentimes the chef who has a passion and a dream about producing food. Now, yes, you're giving up the ambiance, but you're also giving up a lot of other costs, including the extremely cost prohibitive commercial lease payments for the property that you're operating, and more importantly, in some respects, the extensive long-term arrangements that you have for those places, so that if the business does not succeed, you are still tied in to a 10-year lease, a 5-year lease. The cost of creating the space, the utilities, the marketing that goes into trying to make sure you have that seating capacity filled all the time, and then the staffing. Employees are a very expensive component to the restaurant industry, and employees need to get paid before you do. Also, if you're franchising, franchisors get paid on revenue irrespective of your profitability. So this, together with the current pandemic that has forced people to not go and frequent restaurant establishments, has created a new move to see about the whole home kitchen idea, the industrial warehouse kitchen idea, and whether and how to pursue this. So the biggest challenge that we're going to talk about is the fact that from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, you have different rules, different health departments, and who is going to dictate what it is. Plus, the fact that this is an up and coming arrangement, so that when something is up and coming, things have a tendency to change. And the established parties are going to want to protect their position. Established parties meaning the restaurant industry and their lobby. So they're going to push back hard. That is with every industry. They do not want insurgents to come in and cut down their business if it's at all possible. So they are going to want to push back and make it more difficult for these home businesses, home kitchens, to come in. So what we want to do is we want to look at what some of the possible considerations are. And remember, these are just some of the considerations. They're not all. and they are going to be specific to your jurisdiction, whether it's the city or the province or state that's going to have additional rules. The rules will change, the rules will become stronger, they'll transform, and you'll want to consider all those things in there. So what kinds of things do you have to consider? Well, certain things that you'll have to consider is the applicable legislation. And that legislation could be a Health and Protection and Promotion Act, a food premises regulations, those laws that are put forward often by the provinces or the states, but sometimes also supplemented by local city rules, town rules, as to obligations with respect to preparations of food and service of food. So what they tend to do is they set out minimum standards as to food temperatures, food handling, sanitation, dishwashing, personal hygiene practices. And you got to remember, a lot of these rules are somewhat archaic because they were designed and implemented with the restaurant industry in mind. So it conceptualizes an operational restaurant and does not conceptualize something operating in a warehouse or in part of a person's personal residence. Very different scenarios. So you're going to have to modify and operate within that space. So you got to look at these requirements specific to your particular jurisdiction. And that's where oftentimes you'll want to engage a lawyer who understands what they should be looking for, how you can operate within that framework and proceed and be able to sell your operation so that it gets properly licensed. Considerations on the structural side can be aspects of hand washing, what types of sinks are required, what the dimensions are for those sinks, what the spacing is for those sinks, what kind of exhaust and ventilation is required for your cooking, what kind of refrigeration, what kind of cooking, what kind of temperature assessments, how does your food handling need to be taken care of, what are the restrictions that are going to come about. These are your considerations, and they're going to be very specific, and you should be looking at them, oftentimes working with legal counsel and people who are knowledgeable. What kind of prohibitions exist that you cannot have, and that when you come in and the inspector comes by to review your place, that they will automatically pick up, they're looking for, and they will deny your license. Things like having animals on the property, smoking on the property, segregating certain areas. All considerations you have to take into effect. You got to look into if there is a food handler certificate that you have to obtain. And then if you do, you got to obtain that certification and be able to have that on hand. If it requires renewal based on your jurisdiction, you have to renew. If certain employees that you engage to assist you with the cooking need to also have that food handler, food safety training requirements, then you have to go about and get that done also. Then you have to look at whether there is any other health regulations that need to be fulfilled. If you need an inspector to come by and inspect the place prior to your being able to market your services and to sell your product. Are there other licensing requirements? Are there zoning requirements that are required? Business requirements that you might need to. You need to find out specifically for your city, town, province, state, what is required and how you can fulfill it. And if you're not going to be able to fulfill it, or right now fulfill it, do you need to license or rent a licensed commercial kitchen and use that until you start off, and then move slightly forward as you retrofit your basement, as you retrofit your garage, as you retrofit your kitchen to make it compliant with the legal requirements of your local jurisdiction. Because if the business picks up, are you going to be in compliance, or are you going to spend the money and lose the opportunity? The fact of the matter is, the home kitchen aspect, from a commercial standpoint, is going to be far less expensive than almost any other cooking experience, and you'll be able to focus on your cooking efforts, your culinary endeavors that you wouldn't necessarily have if you were bogged down with the whole restaurant operation. And this is why people are looking at this. There's many other aspects that you need to consider, some not necessarily from a legal perspective, but there are other legal considerations. And you want to go and find out how to do this correctly, even cost efficiently, but correctly, so that you can put the time and effort into this new business enterprise and make it successful, and know that your efforts are going to come out and get repaid. And that is what your objectives should be. If you have any questions, or are you looking to engage legal counsel to work with you to pursue the home kitchen aspect, to pursue the industrial kitchen, warehouse kitchen, where you are only serving a delivery market, do not hesitate to contact myself and find out how we might be able to help you in succeeding in this type of new endeavor that is starting to take off and looks like it will only accelerate. It will become more regulated. The regulations might become more defined. At times, also, you might get the benefit of starting early and being grandfathered in. Always a consideration. But you need to do it correctly, and legal counsel is always advisable, specific to what you are pursuing, as this video hopefully shows. Thank you very much. Feel free to subscribe and provide us your comments in the comments section. Thanks once again.